Welcome to our first video on Kamen Rider Gaim. Here we're going to discuss the basics of the Sengoku Driver as well as the basics of the Lockseeds. Now, Kamen Rider Gaim's gimmick was samurai and fruit, as we see here. The main character was Kamen Rider Gaim. He used the orange Lockseed as his primary one. Now, with the Lockseeds, there's multiple different kinds. Here we have the candy version of the orange Lockseed. The candy versions are a cheaper version. They come in a box with a tiny piece of candy, so it's really not buying the candy, you're buying the toy, but they just happen to come with candy, because why not, Japan? Now, it goes through all the sound effects like in the show with this one button. And if we notice here on the belt where the Lockseed would go, when I cut with the sword, this tiny button is raised. And so that's what would press this button here. So even the candy items work with the show's belt, which is a nice feature that you don't always get in all of the Kamen Rider series. Now, as well as the candy, we also have the gachapon. The gachapon work just like the candy Lockseeds. They look a little bit different on the back. The gachapon ones look a lot more like the DX. I believe it's the same mold for the backing. The inner face plates on the candy are solid with the sticker, whereas on the gachapon it's a clear or translucent. But the easiest way to tell the difference between the two, it's by nature that I just hit it. So, if you see here on the latch, there's nothing. Here on the banana, the latch is actually, you have to actually attach it, because when it's in the gachapon ball, that's a solid little ball. Whereas with the little lock sticking out, they'd have to make a bigger capsule, because the gachapon are the quarter machines of Japan. So you have those two different options, but then of course you have the deluxe, or the DX. Here we have Durian. This is the Durian Lockseed. The biggest difference to tell between one of these two and the DX is the front piece doesn't have a little bump. The little bump, sometimes it's silver. I think this one's more worn away because this isn't the series from about 5 years ago. So these old toys are a little old. This one's in prime condition though. So for the DX ones, you have to actually turn them on. And that one was already on. And then, so before, when I would open it up and make the sound, I was hitting it with the inside of my hand. And for most of the Lockseed, you can do that, which helps stay in the universe and the immersion of the toys. But on the DX, you don't even need to worry about that. Do it as many times as you want. Now, you see a similar button as you had on the other ones. This button actually goes through the sound effects of the Digimon Pokemon battle, the Yu-Gi-Oh fight that happens in the show. And there's also, of course, a you lose that it happens if you scroll through it enough. Now, if you notice on the back of here, there's two other buttons. These tiny little things. These tiny little things are what activates it into a mode for either the belt or the weapons. Now, what it does, it has the little peg in the belt that'll activate this, but So one is the belt, one is the weapon. And we can find out the difference, if we don't know from the sound itself, by hitting the activation button. And we can tell that that's for the belt. And if we do the weapon, pull the trigger on the weapon, so just as the activation button is the same on these, that's why these are able to still work with the belt. So, you know, through the engineering or whatever you want to call it for toys, that's a lot of thought put into these things to make sure that we get the best experience with these things. Alright, so now onto the belt, we have the Sengoku Driver. This one does not have a faceplate currently. The faceplate I have for it is Kamen Rider Bravo with the Durian Lockseed. But if we look on the back, we see here's the batteries. A good question everybody has: how do you open the battery hatch? There's a little button you press in here, and then you gotta slide it off. You gotta keep that pressed down and slide. There you go. So there's your batteries, and it just snaps right back on. It's actually nice that it's not a screwdriver. I appreciate that. So there's your belt. The belt attaches here, like in any other DX belt. So there's no real explanation needed there. It's pretty self-explanatory. You attach the belt. All the Heisei belts work the same. Now, let's turn it on.
Sengoku Driver.
Another genius part of this, the speaker. You have a speaker right here, but behind the sword. You also have a speaker right here in the front. So they're both making sounds. Alright, now if you don't put a faceplate on, it does do the default Kamen Rider sound effect, so we can start with that. On the candy, Gachapon will work the same. No noises. No noises. But I believe my Sengoku Driver's getting a little haywired there.
Sengoku Driver. Sengoku Driver.
Alright, let's try this again. There we go. And then you can do one of the attacks, but you can't do another attack. If you'll notice, when I pull the sword, there's also a nub here that gets moved. It doesn't activate anything on the faceplates, but there is an attachment for the belt. That's another video, though. So let's take out the Candy Lockseed. Now, you can unhook. Or, since it does have a little breaker here, you notice? You can pull it right off. Doesn't damage anything, it's built for that. Alright, but let's put in our DX Lockseed so we can get the full effect of the sounds. First, let's make sure we're the right rider. See, the Lockseed itself, the DX, make a sound effect when they're put into the belt. The candy don't have that sensor. As you notice, it'll be a different henshin music because it's a different rider. And then so if we do an attack, Now with the candy, it would have gone to the, I don't know, the advertisement line, I guess, at the end of them. But here we could do another attack. So we just constantly go through the attacks. Now with the candy and the gachapon, you are able to activate it. And then if you hit one, you do the first finisher, but if you hit it twice, it'll do the Ole. But then it always goes back to the tagline at the end. So in case you didn't notice, so this is a durian. That's what a durian looks like. That's a fruit. This is a sword. We're slicing it. That's the power that you're activating with the Sengoku Driver. So then again, we can... And so the Lockseed as well as the belt had sound effects for that. And the Lockseed has sound effects for that as well. No Lockseed, that's the sound you get. And again, so there's the peg that signifies it's the belt. These side things will hit into the DX because they have the buttons there. If you can see the gray. That button, that's to do the pulling off, pulling on. And that's how it gets the lock on and off. Signification. Signal. But I made a new word. Signification. And then to close it out, let's put a legend in there. Everybody's favorite. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about the Sengoku Driver, for example, there's the sound of taking off a faceplate. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a question in the comment. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with Kamen Rider videos. Our next few toy videos will be some more Kamen Rider Gaim. I'll show off things like my Candy Mango, my Sid Dealer Lockseed, and of course one of my personal favorites, Ankh. Bye-bye.